The temple halls of Zarketh Prime stretched endlessly, their crystalline walls refracting light into patterns that hurt human eyes. John Morrison adjusted his oxygen mask and followed the procession of robed aliens deeper into the sanctuary. Beside him, Elsa Chen documented everything with her scanner, her scientific curiosity barely contained. They were the first humans to witness the Festival of Ascension, a ceremony the Zarkethi held once every planetary cycle. As Earth's ambassadors, they'd been granted unprecedented access, though John suspected it was more about the aliens' amusement than genuine hospitality. The Zarkethi towered over them, their crystalline exoskeletons clicking rhythmically as they moved. High Priest Velmorath led the procession, his ceremonial robes trailing behind him like liquid silver. "Behold," Velmorath announced, his voice resonating through translation implants, "the blade of divine right, forged in the heart of a dying star, wielded only by those chosen by the gods themselves." The procession stopped before an altar of black stone. Suspended in a column of light floated a sword, or what the Zarkethi called a sword. To John's eye, it looked more like a crowbar someone had hammered into a vaguely blade-like shape. The metal was dull gray, pitted with age, and the handle wrapped in what appeared to be old leather. "For 10,000 cycles," Velmorath continued, "warriors have attempted the trial of strength. Only 3 have succeeded in lifting the sacred blade from its resting place. They became god-kings, rulers of entire star systems." Elsa leaned toward John, whispering through their private comm channel. "The energy readings are off the charts. That light column is some kind of gravitational field. Whatever that thing weighs, it's not normal." 20 Zarkethi warriors stepped forward, each one a mountain of muscle and chitin. The first approached the altar, reaching into the light. His 3-fingered hand closed around the handle and he pulled. Nothing. His exoskeleton creaked with strain, his legs trembling. After 30 seconds, he stepped back, head bowed in shame. One by one, the warriors tried. One by one, they failed. "The gods have not chosen," Velmorath intoned. "Another cycle passes without a—" "Can I try?" John's voice cut through the solemn atmosphere. The temple fell silent. Every crystalline face turned toward him. Velmorath's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "Human, you misunderstand the sacred nature of— I know, divine test, chosen ones, all that." John was already walking toward the altar. "But we came all this way. Seems rude not to participate in local customs." "John," Elsa hissed, "the gravitational readings suggest that blade weighs approximately 8,000 kilograms. You'll dislocate your shoulder." "Noted," John replied cheerfully. Velmorath stepped aside, amusement evident in his posture. "Very well, human. Attempt the impossible. When you fail, perhaps you will understand the gulf between your species and true power." John reached into the column of light. The energy tingled against his skin, making his hair stand on end, his fingers wrapped around the worn leather grip. It felt familiar somehow. Wrong size, weird balance, but the weight. He lifted it straight out of the column. The gravitational field collapsed with a sound like thunder. John held the blade up, examining it in the temple's ambient light. Now that he could see it clearly, recognition hit him like a freight train. "Holy crap," he muttered. "This is a M9 Ace breaching tool. We use these in the core." The temple had erupted into chaos. Zarkethi were prostrating themselves, their voices raised in what sounded like prayers or lamentations. Velmorath stood frozen, his entire body rigid with shock. A god walks among us," the high priest whispered. "What?" "No!" John turned the blade over in his hands. "Seriously, this is military surplus. See this stamp? U.S. Armed Forces 1985. We use these to pry open doors and smash through walls. They're basically fancy crowbars." Elsa had her scanner out. confirmation dawning on her face. He's right. John, how did Earth military equipment end up in an alien temple 10,000 light-years from home? John examined the handle, rapping more closely. This leather is degraded, but... Velmorath, how old is this sacred blade? The high priest was still reeling. It was discovered by our ancestors 12,000 cycles ago. A gift from the stars, they said. A test from the divine. 12,000 of your cycles. Elsa did quick calculations. That's about 800 Earth years. John, this predates human spaceflight by centuries. Impossible, Velmorath insisted. Only gods can lift the blade. The gravitational binding was set by the ancients themselves. It requires the strength of... It requires someone who knows how to use a breaching tool, John interrupted. He demonstrated, showing the proper grip, the way you were supposed to brace and lever. The weight distribution is counterintuitive unless you've been trained, and that gravitational field, if you pull against it wrong, it fights you. But if you pull the way this thing is designed to be used... He shrugged. It's just a tool doing what tools do. Elsa was scrolling through historical records on her datapad. John, there's a note here about a cargo ship that vanished in 1987, the SS Meridian. It was carrying decommissioned military equipment for scrap recycling. Never reached its destination. A wormhole, John said softly. Or a temporal anomaly. Ship gets pulled through, crashes here, and the locals find equipment they can't understand. They build a legend around it. Velmorath's voice was hollow. You're saying, our entire religion is based on a human tool? Not just any tool, John said, trying to be diplomatic. This is a damn good breaching bar. Saved my life more than once in Kandahar. The guys who made these knew what they were doing. He noticed the altar had an inscription, worn but still visible. Walking closer, he could make out English letters beneath layers of alien pictographs. Property of Sergeant Mike Davidson, 3rd Battalion. Someone survived the crash, Elsa breathed. At least initially. John set the breaching tool back on the altar carefully. Velmorath, I'm not a god. I'm just a jarhead who spent too much time kicking down doors in the sandbox. But here's the thing. If your ancestors couldn't lift this, it's not because they were weak. It's because they didn't have the context. The training, then the trial, Velmorath began, is a skills test, not a divine judgment. John smiled, which, honestly, makes it more impressive that 3 of your people figured it out on their own. That takes serious problem-solving. The high priest was quiet for a long moment, processing the collapse of 10,000 cycles of theology. Finally, he clicked his mandibles. Laughter, Elsa recognized. Human John, Velmorath said, you have given us something more valuable than validation. You have given us truth. Though I suspect, he gestured at the prostrate worshippers, the transition will be difficult. John picked up the breaching tool again, hefting its familiar weight. Tell you what, keep the tool, but maybe update the story. Not gods, just people, doing what people do, making things, solving problems, surviving, and occasionally, Elsa added, grinning, leaving extremely confusing artifacts for alien civilizations to find. John laughed. Yeah, sorry about that. Hey, you wouldn't happen to know where the rest of that shipment ended up? Because if you're building a religion around an ace tool, I'm really curious what you did with the MREs. Velmorath's mandibles clicked again. The sacred, indestructible nutrition wafers of eternal suffering are in the Temple of Penance. Of course they are. John sighed. Of course they are.